Hey everyone, King here with PrepSmartKitchen.com, and today we're going to be showing you guys Bella. No, we're going to be showing you guys how to make kind of a variation on paneer curry. What I'm going to be doing is throwing some spinach in there, give this really nice green color. We're using panela cheese. This is a Mexican cheese, but it works just the same as paneer. Paneer is actually cheese if you don't know that. And to cook it, we're gonna highlight ghee. Ghee is clarified butter. Basically means, you know, the milk's been boiled, or the cream, or whatever it is, the butter. It's been boiled to the point where all the kind of like the dairy fats have been removed. So this is really just kind of, I guess you can say it's purified, but it doesn't really have that same kind of buttery taste. It's really just kind of a cooking oil at this point, but it works really well when you're making curries. Then we got, you know, aromatics, ginger, shallot. And then we got some of these little serrano peppers, kind of the closest we can get. One thing that's really interesting when you're making curries, especially here in kind of the west coast of the U.S., kind of the geography, you know, Mexican food, Mexican ingredients are really popular here. And, you know, believe it or not, it actually crosses well into curries. You know, again, we're using panela cheese, the serrano pepper. You know, we're gonna be using Mexican table cream. There's a lot of kind of crossover that you can get. So, you know, kind of cooking these really kind of exotic, kind of far away type of foods. You know, me personally, I didn't grow up with curry, so a lot of this is just sort of me just winging it. But for other people who are in the same boat, who are just winging it and kind of going, I want to make curry, but I don't really know what I'm doing. There's a lot of great potential when you're kind of using a lot of Mexican ingredients, especially with the chili, right? Chilies, they're from the New World. You know, they kind of came over to parts of Asia and, you know, Africa, and kind of brought those flavors, you know, kind of around the 1500s. You know, we didn't really have these sort of spices in the old world at all. So again, you know, that crossover has been there for centuries already. So it's pretty cool. Here we just kind of some just generic medium grain rice. The closest to this, if you need a name, is probably jasmine. But I don't think it's going to be as sticky as jasmine. Then we just have some green lentils here. Red lentils also work, but for these ones we're just use green because I have them. They're half empty. So yeah, what we're going to do next is we're going to blanch the spinach, get it ready, and then we're going to wash the rice, cook it. Actually, we're going to do that the other way around. And then we're going to start prepping everything. All right, so we're just using our rice here. You see I got a plastic bag. That's just how it came from the store. You can get rice containers, and those are really helpful, mostly because it keeps bugs out. And if you have them in bags, eventually the bugs can kind of just eat through it. And if you've had rice kind of a lot in the past, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. There's kind of these little like mites that kind of pop up, kind of like magic. It's a little weird. So if you're, you know, buying a little more than just a small bag like this, you're going to keep it for a long time, do try and do that for yourself. It's not fun pulling bugs out of your rice, but you know, with meal prep, there's going to be long periods of time where you're not really cooking, so you kind of want to make sure that, you know, you're protecting the stuff that you bought and the stuff that you want to eat later, because, you know, no one wants to eat bugs unintentionally. Some places of the world, you know, people do eat bugs quite a bit, but not by accident. You don't want to do that. So cleaning it's super easy. You just put it in the pot, and then you're going to want to run some cold water over it. In this case, it's a little lukewarm, which is fine. You're just going to kind of move it around. It's going to be a little cloudy. You know, that'll clear up after 2 or 3 soaks. And I'll just kind of put it through the sieve and let it kind of rinse off a bit. Then I'm going to do it again. Sometimes I'll hit it with the multi-spray if I can. You know, kind of let more of the starch kind of fall off. You know, you're hitting it with more water in different locations. having a multi, stream faucet like that. They're pretty goated. Give it a shot. We're just gonna add the water. And what I like to do is kind of, I've shown this in the past, you just kind of put your finger in there and just kind of make sure it's kind of at your knuckle. So here it's actually a little bit above it, honestly. Not this knuckle, the knuckle below. So we might dump just a little bit of it out. So we got the spinach right here, and we're just going to begin kind of rinsing this also. And spinach comes rinsed already. It's usually washed, but for whatever reason, there's always this kind of sediment on it, bits of gravel and things like that. So I just aim to get that off mostly. And what we're going to do now is we're going to bring it over here, and I'm actually just going to remove the stems. You don't totally have to do this, but I just don't want all of that stem in the curry, just because it's kind of brings like a grassy flavor, and I don't want that. I just want the leaf of it. So we're going to get our aromatics ready, and our aromatics are going to be this garlic, the chilies, shallot, some ginger. I just have this minced ginger I got from the store. You can use whole ginger right here, it's probably better. But in this case, sometimes I will kind of go with these sort of pre-chopped up kind of styles, just to save time when I want to. So next, I'm just going to cut through here. I'm not going to bother with cutting the centers out, the placenta, just because I do want some heat. And also, I'm going to beat this thing up in the mortar and pestle. So for these cuts, I don't have to be super exact, just because they're about to get a whole lot more beat up, and it'll be okay. It's not going to blow up. Sounds like it will, but it's not going to. So we're just going to do this with the shallot too. Just kind of cut off both ends. Kind of just open it really similar to a normal onion. Try and get this little film off of it. I don't like that film because it makes it really kind of harder to cut. And something about onions can be a little tricky. I don't know exactly what it is about them. And that'll just kind of follow that same cut that I made. Especially for, again, this sort of dish where I'm just... I'm going to beat them all up in this mortar and pestle, and then after that I'm going to process them in the processor. So this is the most complete they're going to be. I guess if an onion is a lemon, a shallot is a lime, something like that. Or if a white onion is a grapefruit, a sweet onion is a lemon, then the shallot is a lime. But garlic is worth the trouble. It's where all the flavor comes from. Something that's really interesting about garlic is every culture uses it. It doesn't really matter where the recipe comes from. Chances are, I'm willing to bet that there's going to be garlic in it at some point. It just seems to be a very universal thing, kind of like salt. Pepper is not. There's a lot of cuisines that just don't use black pepper. That's mostly a European thing because of French royalty. Is we're going to just add kind of about this much of the ginger. And we're just going to start beating it up. So that's kind of why this is important, why it's going to get so fragrant in your face. Just because you have all these, onion, garlic, really sensation creating ingredients, chili of course. So that's all blended up. For the cheese, I like to kind of just cut it the long way. It's cheese, right? And it's kind of got this really sort of like soft sort of texture. So but it makes it kind of a little tricky to cut through because it's spongy. So we're just gonna cut into small squares. All right, so you can see we got the water coming to a boil now. So I'm gonna set it over here and you'll be able to see. I'm just gonna add this spinach. I'm just gonna kind of put it in here. One thing about spinach is it shrinks quite a bit. And so what looks like a lot quickly becomes a moot point almost within a minute. So we're gonna kind of cook this down. Again, guys, cooking with spinach is amazing. Spinach is it's just nutrient packed, right? There's just nothing wrong you go with this. No one ever ate some spinach and went, oh man, I think I'm gonna get cancer now, right? This ain't McDonald's. This is spinach. And we're just going to move it over here and gonna drain it, kind of like pasta, right? Is we're going to blanch it, which means put it in the ice bath, and this kind of keeps the fibers in the spinach kind of like intact because we're shocking it, right? Now the spinach is going like, whoa, like we just went from boiling to freezing. What's going on here? And that's what's going on. We are just kind of softening it, cooking it, but at the same time leaving it at a certain consistency. Okay, so I picked out some of the ice. There's probably a few pieces inside, but this is good. We're just gonna leave it like this. All this moisture is also good. When we add it to the processor, it just kind of, allows it to kind of blend it all up a bit more. So we're just gonna continue to let this drain right here and get back to blooming our aromatics and spices. Tempering, and we're gonna use our ghee. So ghee's pretty soft. It doesn't really smell like butter. It kind of smells like something else. But it does have a much higher smoking point than regular butter, which kind of makes it ideal for cooking. So we're just going to kind of spread it around just like a regular cooking oil. See, it's kind of like that. I'm going to add our spices. The garam masala, which is kind of like a blend. This is basically called tempering. Basically, you kind of open up these spices before you really start cooking with them. It's similar to how you beat up aromatics in the mortar and pestle with the spices. You just sort of add them to the heat, and it will. Just gonna add a little bit more of this butter. And it just kind of releases the aromas and the flavors a bit more. So we'll just move it around, let them say hi to each other. You can also put, I'm actually going really light. This is normally done with like whole spices like cardamom, which is also another overlap you'll see pretty often. Cumin and the use of cumin. For whatever reason, cumin, you can see it a lot in kind of like gringo Mexican food. Never fully understood why. Okay. So I'm going to every now and then they'll get a good cough out of you. And we're going to add these. Now I know it doesn't really look like a whole bunch, and it's not. This is a pretty small amount for what we call curry paste. I wouldn't call this the most paste-like. There's more authentic ways to do this. Kind of methods that have been tested for, a millennium. But in this case, we're just kind of keeping it easy. Like I said, remember how the moisture in this, it's going to help with kind of how dry that paste does become when you cook with it. Chicken broth, just kind of give it a little more moisture. We're going to use this chicken broth for, specifically we're going to use it for the lentils, but we kind of want to, you can see how this is. Alright, and so once you get it all blended up, you'll see it kind of looks like this really nice thick paste, and that's good. Our cheese here, ready for the sear. But we're just going to kind of let it sit like that for a while, and just kind of flip it, kind of tend to it like you would, meat, I guess. It's similar. About 3 to 6 cups here. No, more like 3 to 4, because you don't want to be left over with too much. So that's 2 cups. Because it'll go bad pretty quickly. Pop that in there. Bring that to a boil and work on. See how we get this really, really nice kind of char. And they'll kind of stick together. Yep, so these are ready to go. And what we'll do, slide them on a nice paper towel. Kind of like that. Some more ghee, but just a smidge of it for now, because with all that pre-existing oil, we're just going to use it to kind of continue carrying the flavors around. Our curry base, and we're going to add a little bit more garam masala and curry powder. Not too much, there's already quite a bit, but cooking with curry like this, there's a bit of layering involved. And you're going to kind of layer the same flavors on top of each other pretty often. Or creme fraiche, or whatever they call it. I'm just going to kind of add that. Good amount, because it is a bit on the dry side. And this is more of a English sort of thing to do, adding dairy immediately to the curry. In a lot of Indian cuisine, they'll just eat yogurt on the side or afterwards. But you can see that kind of dairy really changes the color and the consistency of our curry. We're just going to kind of let it simmer like that, using the paper towel, because it just soaks up a lot of the oils. This is a very oil heavy dish, which is why rice goes with it so well, and why I use this towel right here, because even putting on this cutting board, there's a lot sticking onto my fingers. I'm going to add it directly to our curry. This guy right here. Get him in the mix. And that cheese is definitely probably the most unhealthy part of this whole thing. But that's okay. And it just kind of depends how your schedule works out. I thought I had 5 days, but I checked my schedule while I was cooking this, and it looks like I'll have 4-day week before I get a day off. Um, and that shouldn't be an issue because that just means, you know, for a small amount of curry, we still get to have, you know, a good amount per dish. You know, the ratio changes a little bit. Okay, so you can see I've kind of cleaned most everything up, and this is getting ready to put in the sieve. We're going to just grab it. I tested it a few times, just eating a couple out of it, seeing if they're a good consistency, and they're pretty soft now. So they're definitely ready to add, and again, all that extra moisture is going to be good for our curry. You can see it is a lot though. We're gonna just mix it in. So we're gonna start adding this. Like that. Once we get it all in. This in, and still kind of the way I like to keep it, about 2 scoops. Paneer curry with cheese. You can definitely rely on this to kind of hold you over for the day. It tastes really good. I know what it tastes like. I've had this thing so many times. But it's nice, it's exciting, and it's a really easy introduction to Indian cooking, especially if you're not familiar with it. So give it a try. Tell me what you think and put in the comments down below. This is Keegan King of PrepSmartKitchen.com. Check it out one more time, guys.